Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2022. It is August the 3rd. I am Dave Bryan, and joining me once again, fresh off yet another trip to Saint Vincent College in Latrobe, his 7th of training camp, Alex Kozora. Alex, happy Wednesday to you.
Happy Wednesday. A little lower key practice today. The team in shells, I believe that's NFL mandated. I knew there was some restrictions on that, but someone told me, maybe you know the answer to this. I think it's only 2 days in a row you can go with pads. I may be off on that, but that would seem to track given they were in pads the last 2 days. So a little less to discuss.
I think that's correct in that. I'll have to relook that up in the CBA and stuff like that, but that sounds about right there. Before we get started here, how about telling the fine folks listening about our sponsor, Len Testa at Touring Plans?
Yeah, Len Testa Touring Plans. If you listen to the podcast or you read the camp diaries, you know that they've been a big supporter and sponsor of our camp coverage for years now. And so happy to have them and happy for us to be back out at SVC. So if you're planning a trip to Disney, those are the people you want to talk to, Touring Plans, to figure out your itinerary. I know it can be such a chaotic, hectic time. You're trying to, I had my buddy today. He had his kid, and it was very adorable. But I can only imagine what a trip to Disney's like with him. So I mean that in the most loving way possible, of course. But that's the last thing you want to worry about. Exactly, where to go or how to plan things. You want to focus on enjoying that time, and so you want to go to touringplans.com. Give the shout out to Len Testa and tell him Steelers Depot sent you.
Absolutely. Please do that if you're listening. All right, Alex, how about some housekeeping to start with? And part of that housekeeping includes a transaction earlier in the day. The Steelers put Jeremy McNichols, who was signed, I think, a week ago, on the reserve injured list with that shoulder injury that's been, that he incurred a couple of days ago there, taking his place on the roster. Master Teague, Master.
I like that
straight into some Metallica there. First thing that rolled into my head. Master Teague, undrafted free agent this past offseason out of the Ohio State. So that probably makes Conor Hayward really happy there. A power back, I think, overall was with, I think, the Bears right after initially there. It didn't last too long on that roster, and now he's going to have a shot to maybe get a couple, some snaps here with still a couple, with obviously with Najee Harris still kind of ailing a little bit with that foot injury there. So McNichols to IR. I think he's going to go on IR should go on with a split salary of a little over $500,000, if I'm not mistaken, there on that. And he's not eligible to come off of, to play. He would have to really be released from IR that way in order to play for any team at this point. Be interesting. I don't know if we'll ever find out the severity of it, but the longer that he's on IR probably means that he had surgery. But it is what it is. He's on IR, and Master Teague is on the roster now. Several players not practicing or had concussed birth certificates, I think would be the appropriate thing to say there. You want to go through the long list of players there?
Sure. And just real quick aside, the McNichols signing and then the IR just shows kind of the flow of camp. This guy gets signed. You think, hey, could he compete for a number 3 spot? A week later, no one's talking about him because he's done in Pittsburgh. But not practicing today at all were Najee Harris with the foot, wide receiver Chase Claypool with the shoulder. Carl Joseph was not there. Miles Killebrew with the pec. He's been out since day 2 of camp. Marcus Allen with the hamstring. Pat Frymouth hamstring. Levi Wallace missed again with an illness. And Chuck Wilma-Corford, don't know what's going on there. He was on the field midway through practice, but did not suit up in any capacity. Kim Hayward, TJ Watt had some of those concussed birth certificates. They dressed, but did not work in team today. Frymouth and Claypool both look really close to a return. So I wouldn't be shocked if Frymuth even came back as early as tomorrow. I think both those guys will be back in a matter of days.
And Mike Tomlin was asked about those kind of players that seem to have veteran days or a day off on Wednesday there, and he said, I'll do that from time to time. And you guys know our approach there. It's less about those guys, to be quite honest with you. And it's just a means of thinning the lines and providing more opportunities for younger guys. And, we're going to treat everybody fairly. We're not going to treat everybody the same. More veteran players need less reps in order to be game ready. Younger players need more. And so we think of unique ways to provide everybody with what they need.
And some of those guys getting extra chances today included Derek Tuska. He got first team left outside linebacker reps. And so that is over Avery, but primarily Avery's been at right outside linebacker. So I kind of mused a couple of days ago, if Watt or Highsmith miss, would they just elevate the guy to that side? That seems to be the case there. Is Tuska getting those reps and Isaiah Loudermilk working right defensive end with the first team today. Still waiting on Larry Ogunjobi, of course, to start working in team as well. You think that'll happen sooner than later, but I really don't have a good gauge on when that will occur.
Yeah, we'll see. Chikwama Okorafor, we'll see if that ended up being a veteran day off, or if he's back, or what the deal is there. Okay, let's start on the offensive side of the ball and get this thing moving along. The quarterback shuffle, is that a new song? Like the Super Bowl shuffle with the Bears? Yeah, it was way before your time there.
No, but Jim McMahon and all those guys. I got you.
Okay. Who's on first? What's on second? Sounds like it was a little bit of mix and match during the Wednesday practice.
It was. Usually the way this thing goes, the way it's gone through most camps, and certainly all of this camp so far, is put seven shots aside for a second. During team, you get 12 plays. And so typically it's been going, actually exclusively, it's been going, first guy gets 4, that's been Trubisky. Next guy, second team, gets 4. Third string gets 4. That's your 12. Today, it was basically Trubisky and Rudolph rotating through every 2 reps. And so Trubisky would get first and second, and then Rudolph third and fourth, and then Trubisky fifth and sixth, and then Rudolph 7 and 8, and then Pickett would finish things out. So that's kind of how the flow went today. A little different feel. You can basically say they were splitting first team reps. Rudolph was still working as the second quarterback. At no point did he begin a team session. So that's worth noting as well. In 7 shots, Trubisky only got 3 reps instead of the usual 4. Then Rudolph got the next 3 reps, and then Pickett got the final 1. So some slight changes and shifts in the reps for the quarterbacks have been getting today, which is certainly at least notable.
All right. What about how did they perform? How did each one of them perform?
Yeah, I think they ran the 2-minute drill today, which is always kind of one of the highlights for me in terms of trying to evaluate some of these guys. It's the closest reflection of an actual game setting where it's not quite as, run a play, then huddle back up, and you're standing next to Matt Canada and he tells you the call, and you're kind of running the show. There's more autonomy there, obviously. And so Trubisky did well. The stats on that, let me pull that up here for you guys. Trubisky went 5 of 7 for 53 yards and a touchdown to George Pickens from 6 yards out. Mason Rudolph, 5 of 9, 47 yards. I think he just ran out of time. It was not 4th down when they blew the whistle, so I think he just ran out of time there. And so I thought Trubisky ran the show well and did better in 7 shots and had a really effective 2-minute drill. Okay,
how would you rank their performances today?
I'm so usually bad off the cuff on those things. Maybe.
Were they all above the line, as Mike Tomlin would say?
Yeah, I think everyone was fine today. Maybe I would go in the order in which they ran: Trubisky, Rudolph, Pickett. I think I'd put Trubisky number 1 based on that 2-minute drill and maybe some increased effectiveness in 7 shots. I don't know exactly how I would rank Rudolph and Pickett. I had to kind of go back through some of my notes again to maybe give a better answer there. Loosely, though, Trubisky, Rudolph, Pickett, but I don't care about the rankings too much on a daily basis. It's really just about the long journey of it all.
All right. What was there 1 or 2 plays that stuck out the most made by a quarterback?
Kevin Rader made a really good catch in that 2-minute drill and a bit of a high throw from Rudolph. And so that was kind of maybe one of the plays of the day. That Trubisky with the Pickens had some good chemistry and some good plays there. They started and ended that 2-minute drill with receptions, the latter, of course, being the touchdown. Those are probably the 2 that are coming to mind off the top.
All right. Running backs, starting to hear Anthony McFarland's name a little bit more.
Yeah, still using Pony. Again, it's a little tougher when they're not in pads today. They're in shells, and run session isn't as active or as often. Jalen Warren getting a lot of burn with the second team there in that 2-minute drill. That's good for him. Mateo Durant, haven't talked about him too much. You certainly see that burst of speed on the perimeter runs, on outside zone runs or toss plays or things like that. And so, inside the tackles, obviously a bit more of an issue with him, but you are feeling that burst of speed that he has to try to gain the edge.
Okay, tight end position.
Yeah, still pretty quiet there. Like I mentioned, Frymuth looks really, really close to a return. And as I said before, Kevin Rader with the catch of the day, over his head, 20 yards down the middle of the field. I know Rader, haven't talked about him too much. He's kind of a what you see is what you get guy as a blocker, coverage guy. Not a ton of upside there, but it's certainly hung around the roster. So good to note that. Sternberger just has to catch the ball more cleanly, more effectively. Did have a nice catch on a really good throw from Kenny Pickett and 7-on-7 on a little crosser over the middle. But Rader, to me, had the play of the day.
Conor Hayward?
Yeah, still working. He got a lot of reps, I think, in that in some of the 2-minute drill situations. So, I think maybe they're moving him around a bit more in terms of flexing him out as a slot, or when they go some of their heavier personnel, they can still put him out, which is kind of an interesting wrinkle they haven't really had before. Derek Watt's not as effective as a stand-up receiver as Conor Hayward is. Certainly the body type's different, but you just watch them go through drills, individual work with Gentry and Rader and Sternberger. Hayward certainly is a more fluid guy, different type of mover, and you would expect that given he's a smaller guy overall, but you kind of definitely feel his game is different than the other tight ends that go through drills.
All right, wide receivers.
Let's see here. Tyler Vaughn's interesting guy. Did not test well out of USC. I think he ran in the 4.6s. His overall testing was pretty poor, but he's a good route runner. He had a good catch today. I think it was in team. Nice curl route breaking down, great separation. George Pickens did the same in 1-on-1 against Akella Witherspoon, but Vaughn's kind of has that. It's kind of cliche to say Jarvis Landry, but just in the sense of being a better athlete on the field and the way that you tested. And so that's a guy that has made some plays in terms of body control, making some, high point, high degree of difficulty type catches. But I see some good route running and twitchiness in this game that may not have shown up in his testing when he came out of USC.
All right, about Calvin Austin, make a couple plays today.
Yeah, he worked well in 2 minutes. He had I think he sits down against zone well. He had a couple catches there. Let me see exactly what all he had in 2 minutes. If I can maybe find it here in just a second. Catch for 6 from Trubisky, then a catch for 21, which he ran into the end zone, but they called him, quote unquote, down at the 6. And so, yeah, that was 2 catches for 27 yards in that first 2-minute drill. And so it was Trubisky hitting really Austin and Pickens primarily in terms of the receivers to move the ball down the field.
Is he mostly seeing time in 11 personnel and in the slot?
Yes, it's been, I don't want to say exclusively. I don't know if that is a factual statement, but primarily a slot receiver and 11 personnel.
Okay. What else about wide receivers? Anything else?
That's about it overall. I mean, I did watch them in the receiver DB 101 stuff. Their drills there, which again is tailored very much to the offense. Steven Sims, his hands and team look a bit better than when I've seen some of the on-air type stuff. So maybe that's kind of a focus thing overall. He's working as an X receiver. I know people kind of view him as the slot receiver, but I think the majority of his time has come on the outside. You've seen Calvin Austin, you've seen Gunnar Olszewski, Tyler Snead work a lot more in the slot than Steven Sims.
How about Gunnar as a wide receiver?
Yeah, it's been fine. He's made some tough catches. He's worked both inside and outside, so there's some positional flexibility there, as there is really for a lot of this receiver room. It's not been anything too crazy. It's been mostly underneath type stuff, but he's looked good.
Anthony Miller had in the punt drill had set a record, right?
I have to check. The thought in my head is that 6 was the record that had been held by multiple people, including Miller, I think earlier this year, and then Miller got to 7 today. And that how many punts basically can you field at once without dropping one? He got to 7. So if I want to go real nerdy, and why not, I'm going to go back and check to see if I can find if someone's done 7 before. But at least, of course, it tied the record.
All right, offensive line. Trent Scott, kind of getting up there in the lines.
Yeah, I was surprised by that when I saw Core not working today, not down on the field. The first right tackle rep in team and warm up was Joe Haig, and I went, well, that makes a lot of sense. Joe Haig being in there, that's predictable. Dan Moore on the left side, and then Trent Scott rotated in, and they did that throughout the day. So they kind of flip flop back and forth in terms of first and second team right tackle work. We kind of assumed that Haig was pretty firmly planted as a top backup at both tackle spots. Not that he's a great tackle by any means, but he's a veteran known guy who did that last year. But Trent Scott getting some action there. I know he's got a really good history and a long history with Pat Meyer, who coached him both with the Chargers and the Panthers. So maybe Haig, in terms of being that backup, not quite as secure. Maybe they just want to give Trent Scott a longer look. I mean, we'll keep an eye on what happens with the core of course. But that was, to me, maybe the surprise of the day, seeing Trent Scott get some first team reps.
I think you had something on LeGlue, right?
Yeah, he worked some left tackle, too. He worked everything but left tackle last year, and I don't think it went too well for him. I saw him kind of get pushed around a little bit. He played left tackle, I want to say, in college, some at Tulane, so it's not probably brand new to him, but increasing that versatility. He's played all over. Jake Dixon's kind of following that mold. He's played basically, I think, everything but center. I know he's played left tackle, right tackle. He's played interior, at least at one of the guard spots, if not both. I'll have to go back and check that. So Jake Dixon, one of those guys, is trying to kind of follow the LeGlue and others' path of trying to make yourself as versatile as possible.
How's the battle between Green and Dotson going? Mike Tomlin didn't really shed much light on it when asked about it after practice and all. Is it just one of those things we're going to have to sort out during the preseason mostly?
Yeah, I think that'll be the best way to do that. I don't feel like Dotson is running away with it. I think if you made me choose on the limited windows that I can evaluate some of that stuff, I would say Dotson's been better. Still seeing Green on the ground a bit too often and dealing with bull rushes and power overall. Not that Dotson's been excellent or perfect, but if I had to choose, I'm going to go Dotson being that guy. But it's still a battle. They still rotate, and they're going to keep fighting this one for a while.
We haven't talked a lot about Mason Cole.
It's been fine, and that's good. I mean, it's not been amazing, but it does not have to be amazing. The snaps have been good. He's been steady. Some of the one-on-ones, he's looked, fine. He's held his own. So if the word I can use, Mason Cole, December is fine, then I'm happy with that. That's kind of the mark that I'm shooting for, and so far he's hit that bar.
All right. I think we got all the offense.
Just to say real quick, Dan Moore Jr., I think I mentioned some of the athleticism he's shown. I mean, he's had some good battles against Alex Highsmith. Highsmith has certainly won a couple of those, but I think those are two young guys making each other better. And I think Moore's coming along nicely to start year two.
All right, being as how you just mentioned Highsmith, let's go to outside linebacker then next. We're all hoping that Alex Highsmith takes that next step in his progression. Took a step last year, I thought. Kind of hoping for double digit, sacks or more than anything, just a lot of quarterback, pressures, however they end. What have you seen so far in camp out of him?
It's been good. It wasn't as set the world on fire the way that I saw last year, although we were still, relatively early in this thing. There's a lot of time left. I mean, he's certainly been active in run session. That spin move looks really effective as that inside counter. So I think he's certainly given more all that he can handle. Again, it hasn't been, last year I thought Alex Highsmith had the best camp I've ever seen from one player. Like, it was that good. And I don't think it's, maybe that's partially because of expectations and you already kind of know Highsmith more, so you're maybe less impressed by some things. That may be a potential factor, but it's been a good camp for Alex Highsmith. I have no doubt about that.
All right. What about Derek Tuszka? He's a guy that kind of late, had a couple of mini flashes, I guess you'd call him, late last season. What's his progress look like?
It looks roughly the same. I think he looks comfortable and he's getting a lot of reps. I mean, he's run second team left outside linebacker the entire summer until today when he ran first team left outside with TJ getting at least a half day off. So, I mean, it's been solid, I guess. I think Avery probably has looked better as an actual pass rusher and edge defender, but Tuszka looks comfortable and confident. And, of course, it's going to probably bring more special teams value than the other guys. So that's going to be his calling card.
What about Auburn kid TD Moultrie?
Again, I still see that really good first step. I think this guy is going to make some plays in the summer just based off that first step against some poor right tackle who's not
furniture movers.
Well, I don't like to say that stuff, but just some guy that's a little, maybe he's a little late to hear the snap. The crowd's so loud, maybe the first time for a guy like that, and Moultrie's going to be able to jump him and probably rip the edge and get some pressure. So Again, I still don't know a ton about his game beyond that first step, but he's kind of got that bigger lower half. He's a pretty powerful guy in terms of that lower body that's creating that initial explosion. So I think it's a guy that's probably going to have a couple of flashes at least in preseason action.
Could he wind up being the guy after the first preseason game that people are saying you can't cut him because he'll never clear waivers?
That's when football is bad for sure. Yeah, I could see a Daney, who's our skipper, the first time around, kind of buzz with Moultrie. It's early. I don't want to put too much on him, and this guy could suck. And I was going to say, Alex, what are you talking about? But I see the trait there. When you get a good first step, you're explosive. You're going against some rookies and backups. Generally speaking, you're probably going to get home at least once or twice.
All right, defensive line.
Also, just a quick note on the edge guys. Delonte Scott continues to, I think, play well. Some of the pressure he had today was kind of him coming free off the edge, but the coaches seem to be talking him up pretty good. So I think that's the important thing. It's not about just having one good day. It's can you stack good days? I would say Scott's probably had 3 good days in a row.
Wow. Right.
And so that's a guy that, will he make the roster? It's a battle for sure, but he's, I think, pushing pretty hard.
All right. Defensive line.
Defensive line, Montrevious Adams, haven't mentioned him too much. I think it's been a really good camp. And again, sometimes those guys in the middle, the centers and nose tackles, they're a little hard to see because they kind of get lost in all the chaos around them. But seeing the quick first step, he's done well in one-on-one. I think he's doing well. And if you have concern about Tyson Alualu and his availability, health, there's certainly going to be more comfort provided because Montrevious Adams looks more comfortable, obviously, after joining the team late last year. And he looks like a really good plan B if this team has to resort to that.
All right. Loudermilk was over there in place of Hayward? Cam?
In place of Ham. Yeah, we can call him Ham. That's fine.
Cam.
Yeah, he was a right defensive end today. Again, left defensive end in terms of some of the backup stuff. Leal, Stomondo working some at nose tackle. Carlos Davis playing a lot of defensive end, not as much nose tackle. So that's kind of the way those things have been running.
All right. How's that inside linebacker battles coming along?
Yeah, still good. I think Gilbert made some plays today, had a breakup in, I think it was a 2-minute session. So I think he's had a couple of good days for him. He's not, a terribly big guy in the run defense. There can be some questions about that. And I know there was the health, although he was healthy last year. And so that was certainly good. And hopefully he just had some bad luck to start his career. But, I watched during the punt session today, I watched Marcus Allen just kind of standing there, probably wishing he was part of that team right now. And Trey Norwood working as that first team up back. So Marcus Allen, probably hoping he gets healthy sooner than later, but I'm guessing he's still going to miss at least several more days. Those hamstring injuries typically take at least a week to get back from, if not longer.
All right. It was Bush and Miles Jack, though, still with the first team and all, right?
It was generally, but there's still been a pretty good rotation. There are times where it's Bush and Spillane, and that's not a concern about Miles Jack. It truly is, as Tomlin says, kind of that 3-man rotation just to get those guys reps. I mean, Robert Spillane, I don't think has lined up next to a backup linebacker at the all of camp. They kind of work in that 3-man rotation at the top, which kind of says that Spillane is almost a lock to make this team. The other guys are all fighting for the spots there. So it's really been a true and blue rotation between the top 3 at that position.
All right. Cornerback. And I think you mentioned something about Platel.
Dave, I love my small school, plucky cornerbacks. And I don't know if Platel's playing great. It's been, I think, fine overall. But you talk about opportunity and that trickle-down effect. How does Minkah Fitzpatrick affect Carlin's Platel? How does Levi Wallace affect Carlin's Platel? When those guys are out, DeMonte Casey's at free safety, and whenever Cam Sutton's going to be an outside corner, Millette's going to play in the slot first team, that all trickles down and pushes Platel up to second team slot corner, which is where he ran today. So getting those reps, getting eyes on you, being able to make mistakes, learn from them. Those are all really important things. So just a small note there, but I like to talk about the entire 90, not focus on just the starters.
Right.
And so anytime a tryout kid from Assumption College by South Carolina makes the team, it's always kind of interesting. So just wanted to shout that out. Cam Sutton, Kelly Witherspoon, I thought did well overall today as well.
Boy, you sure want to see them get Levi Wallace on the field back soon, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's an illness. I don't want to be, sensitive to that, but I've been a little bummed just him not, even whenever he was out there practicing, because he was part of that rotation at corner, similar to the way the inside linebacker group was. There wasn't a ton of reps there for Levi. And so a new team, new system, his first new team in his career, coming out of Buffalo, or coming away from Buffalo, I should say. You'd like to see those reps come early. I mean, there's still a lot of time, but that's kind of been a little disappointing that he's been sidelined for I think 3 full practices, if not more.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And safety?
Not a ton to note there. Again, line's still pretty short. I'm surprised they haven't signed a safety, considering I guess they're going to just assume that Joseph will be back in a day or two, and Minka will be back probably around the same time frame, and so they don't need to make a roster move there. I made a kind of a semi joke in my notes today. Terrell Edmunds is a guy that just is there. Like, it's not bad, it's fine, but I never talk about Terrell Edmunds. I mean, I think I mentioned him literally once outside of just saying that he's starting opposite of DeMonte Casey. So it feels like that happens every single year, where Edmunds is one of your starters, and I almost never write his name. I've written his name one more time than I've written Trey Edmunds' name this year. So it just very nondescript camp.
All right, Steiner.
Yeah, Steiner, I mean, he's thrown his weight around a little bit. I know I called him my sleeper. I don't want to pretend like he's having this amazing summer that vindicates me. That's not been the case so far. But again, a lot of reps there, working second team. There's been 4 available safeties the last 2 days with Joseph away, Killebrew out. Fitzpatrick still on NFI. So you have Casey, Edmonds, Norwood, and Steiner. That's it. So again, a lot of reps for those young guys like Norwood, like Steiner. Again, Carl Joseph being out helps open the door for guys like Carlin's Botel. So, there's a real, domino effect when some of those top guys are not working.
All right, exactly. Trey Norwood, what's been his primary usage so far?
Well, they were rotating pretty heavily at slot corner early on in camp when guys were healthier, and then since the lines got thinner at safety, it's been basically second team free safety. He's also worked as the dime defender. The couple of times I've seen their, 2-3-6 dime package. So he's the dime guy out there. And again, would that change with Minka's back versus Casey? That's a good question. I don't quite know the answer to, but currently second team free safety. Before all the injuries, it was, I don't know, probably maybe still more second team free safety, and then a little bit of slot work as well.
Is it surprising that Casey's running, in place of Minka right out of the chute?
I was initially maybe a bit surprised by it day one. I don't know what happened in the spring. Maybe Casey looked, pretty strong there. They felt pretty comfortable with him being the more veteran guy. He still got to earn that spot. He's certainly on a path to do so. But I guess him being the more veteran type of guy, the harder hitter, maybe he looked good in the spring, and that's kind of how they wanted to start things off. And Casey's had a good camp, so no reason to change that.
Okay. All right. Anything else on it with all the kind of concussed birth certificates today? Which unit had the better day? Offense, defense, overall?
Yeah, I would say the offense. Don't believe there was a turnover today. The 7 shots, the offense won. You said Pickens dropped that one ball. They called that a drop?
Yeah. They called the one in 7 shots. I think it was the first. The first one that Trubisky that you tried to run through the 7 shots real quick.
All right, let me pull it up here. Let's see. First play.
It must have been a bad angle or something, huh? For you looking that way, or
yeah, they were working the opposite side in which they usually work.
If you look at that tweet, you probably got like 800 people telling you that it was dropped.
Oh, great! Well, that'll be fun to go through my mentions today. I'll always look forward to that. First play was a pass that was tipped at the line, Trubisky right side. I think it was the third one that I had as a touchdown to Pickens, and then they said it was a drop. I thought it was a catch, but maybe one downside is because once the play ends, I try to get my head in my notes to write it down really quickly. I may have missed something at the very, very end of that one. It was a good throw from Trubisky, so I guess that remains true.
All right. What about go through the rest of the 7 shots real quick?
Yeah, 7 shot. I just scrolled away from it for some dumb reason. So, yeah, first play was tipped by somebody, not sure who. It's always hard to tell. Second play, a speed out to Miller for a touchdown. The third play was that Pickens. I guess a drop, we'll call it that. Then Rudolph came in, throw in the back of the end zone for Steven Sims, incomplete. Next one hit Sims rolling right on a diving score there. I think he kind of slid baseball catch for it. Next play, a quick speed out to Jalen Warren for a touchdown, UG3 covering. And then final play was a shovel pass to Conor Hayward, who scored a little kind of fake with Durant motioning out to the flat like Pickett was going to throw it in the flat, and then the quick shovel inside to Conor Hayward. I still hate the tight end shovel pass in 7 shots, but I'll have to live with that.
All right. What else overall? What are we
got punters. We got punters punting. That's
punters
exciting.
Are people too.
They absolutely are. So first time kind of able to track some of that stuff today. I don't think either. I think both guys were good, not great, I guess is the way I would describe it. I would give Harvin the edge overall. We have full hang times and yardage in terms of the open air punts and the yardage for that one. Nizellik had one shank on that final one, went 30 yards, a 3.84 hang time, went out of bounds left sideline there. So I think Harvin was more consistent. I think his hang time slightly better. Nizellik had a 4.73 hang time that went 60 yards. That was a really good punt. Harvin had one that was 4.72, 57 yards. He had a 5.05, 49 yards. And so those are the numbers there. Someone did say that, I guess someone covering the team, I honestly do not know who it was, said that Harvin was consistently over 5 seconds. I can tell you that's not true. He did hit there once, but not consistently over. But I thought overall a good day for Harvin. Both can be better, but Harvin won the day and was a bit better overall.
All right, give me your overreaction of the day.
I also should mention Nick Skiba hit one from 50 yards out. I didn't pay super close attention to the field goal situation, but Skiba looks like he's got a decent leg. Overreaction of the day, I don't know if I have one overall. Trubisky looking good in 2 minutes. I don't know what the conclusion there is other than just that being the fact. I'm trying to think of what one could even be. Let me scroll down through my notes here. I'm kind of gonna him and haw around. Again, just Trent Scott working first team right tackle. I don't know what the reaction to that is, but
how about Trent Scott going to unseat Joe Haig? How's that for an overreaction?
All right, how about there's a chance of that happening. Where I went, could Scott even make the team? Could he actually have a backup role? Though, man, Dave, if Trent Scott's the number 3 tackle, I don't know. I really gotta pray for Core 4 and Dan Moore if that's the case.
Yeah, some people are already trying to put that Tevin Jenkins with all these wacky trade ideas here, and
I mean Pittsburgh did have some interest. I guess I could get it, but I don't know.
I mean, what do you got to give up to get it? Obviously you're not going to want to give up a lot for it.
Yeah, I don't know what the cost would be a second round pick under a new regime. My concern, though, with Jenkins is if Ryan Poles, a former offensive lineman, does not like you, then you got some problems.
It was Chris Moore, right?
What's that?
Who's the Bears' offensive line coach now?
No, I was saying their GM, Ryan Poles. Okay. He's a former offensive lineman. Yeah, I don't know who the old. Oh, yeah, Chris Morgan is the offensive line coach. Oh, that's funny. I forgot about that. Yeah, Chris Morgan is the offensive line coach. But I was thinking about Ryan Poles being an ex offensive lineman, and then he's now the GM. And if he doesn't like an offensive lineman, what does that say?
You're right. Second round pick out of Oklahoma State. I mean, you're not giving him a second or probably a third for him, right?
No, it would probably be like at most maybe a fourth, but I think probably a fifth rounder if they're giving up. He's had some injury issues. I mean, his value's probably tanked pretty quickly there. Real quick, I just want to get your thoughts. What do you think about Trevor Penning getting kicked out of every practice he's participated in so far?
I didn't have a shock face, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. No. Senior Bowl, he did that the whole time.
That's one nasty, what. I think they're just trying to try to get it under control because obviously they can't have that stuff cost them during a game there. But he's not scared of anybody, from what I understand.
For sure. Kind of crazy. So I know Pittsburgh's had some tempers flaring, but nothing quite like what's happening in New Orleans. But that's what they signed up for. Like, they knew he was wired that way. They're not surprised by that. Mm-hmm. So interesting there.
All right. And Deshaun Watson, the news there about the NFL appealing that, going to be interesting to play out. I wonder if I'm understanding that correct. If when they appeal, and let's say whatever decisions made, whoever Roger Goodell points to that, changes, the ruling and makes, let's say the suspension, let's say a year or whatever. The NFLPA could obviously try to get this in court, right?
Right.
And then, an injunction, they could file probably an injunction that nothing happens until the decision's made in the court. Would such an injunction supersede any discipline at that point? In other words, I guess what I'm asking is, if I'm reading this stuff correct, and I haven't spent a lot of time on it, is there a chance that we turn around and Deshaun Watson's week 1 quarterback?
Right. Essentially saying, if there's an appeal, does that stay any potential punishment until the appeal process is resolved?
And some sort of an injunction,
Right. Well, yeah, that would be the whole point. Yeah. I don't know. Obviously, I was listening to Mike Florio today say that that would not be the case, that he would still be out those first 6 games because the union is not, there would be no appeal of the Robinson 6-game suspension. It would be the appeal of whatever the NFL does on top of that, I guess would be the idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
I must have read something wrong or listened to something wrong.
Well, I don't want to say it's 100% because I think we're all kind of, these are maybe uncharted territory for this to an extent. But that's logical to me. So my understanding loosely is that it would not affect the first 6 games. It would just affect everything on top of what the NFL potentially does down the line.
Yeah, excuse me, because my parents gave up on me being a lawyer or the big thing was just keep me out of jail. Yeah,
right. I guess you're forgiven.
It came real quick there, but going to be interesting to see how that plays out now.
Yeah, it will. So we'll talk about more of that on Friday, but get back out there for camp tomorrow. They should be in pads. I mean, I imagine it kind of works out well because they warranted a padless practice today, so they can be in pads for Thursday, and then Friday night lights on Friday. They're always in pads for that, and then have the padless practice Saturday, off day Sunday, get back after it Monday. That seems to be the schedule.
All right, everybody coming up and saying hi to you. A lot of people signing any autographs.
That's not worth anything.
Kissing any babies?
Yeah, shaking hands, glad handing for sure. I had some people come up. I don't want to. If I say names, I'll forget other people. So, but with Greg and Larry and his son David, very good to talk to. So yeah, having a good time. Tim's doing a great job. So really excited about the whole experience.
All right, absolutely. And you'll be back out there on Thursday. We'll be back here Thursday night, wrapping it all up for everybody. So let's see. In the meantime, you can follow me on the Twitter machine at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want an ad-free or want an ad-free version of the site or both, go to SteelersDepot.com. Got a donate button and an ad-free button upper right navigational bar. Alex, appreciate all that you do. Continue to be safe on those drives up there and back, and you and I will be back after it again on Thursday night. As always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast, a special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers 2022 training camp with Dave and Alex. Good night.